The average person touches their phone 2,617 times a day. What's one more time by subscribing to Review the Critics? You'll be touching more than your phone if you binge our videos. Our newest video you're about to watch is about heavyweights, and we go hard on the po-faced keto diet wash-ups who did not like this 90s Disney masterpiece. So if you don't like heavyweights, you better watch out because
I'm gonna show you the light.
Do it to it, Lars!
What better way to bid summer farewell than to take a look back at Disney's 1995 comedy classic Heavyweights? You already know the fat camp premise, but did you know Cody's real name is Cody Burger? It's a wonder the other kids didn't devour him like a Friday afternoon Happy Meal. Before we start body slamming the people who didn't love this movie, here are some other facts you might not have known. This was Judd Apatow's second producer role on a film, but the first time for a comedy. He had such a soft spot for this movie that he showed it to his eventual wife, Leslie Mann, on their first date in order to impress her. I wonder if he scored that night. Haha. And Paul Feig, the actor who played Counselor Tim, has had a hold on your cultural relevancy more than you know.
It's an amazing show with an amazing cast, and so just creatively it's so much fun to work on because you get to do such great work.
That's Tim talking about The Office, which he co-produced and directed. He also co-produced Freaks and Geeks, as well as, we'll just pretend that didn't happen. Turn Away. This was Kenan Thompson's second movie, his first being D2, The Mighty Ducks, which many consider Heavyweights to be a spiritual sequel of. And let's not forget Tom McGowan, who played the lovable counselor, Pat Finley. You would immediately recognize him as Frasier's boss on the hit show, and a fun little fact, I saw him standing behind me in line at a movie theater in San Diego to see Finding Nemo, and I was too starstruck to say anything. The only words that would probably have come out of my mouth would have been, Hi! Last fact, then we'll get to the good stuff. You remember this classic scene, right?
I'll tell you whose candy it is.
Let the man speak.
Candy belongs to Seymour Butts.
Seymour Butts? Who's Seymour Butts?
Nobody's seen more butts than you, Uncle Tony.
Well, if you watch Tony's mouth, you'll notice the words don't match up. That's because the original had a more hardcore version, and it actually went like this.
My. You look quite grown up for such a young gentleman. What's that in your pants? Take it out.
Wait, wrong scene.
The original line was Peter Fitz, and you could see his lips moving, and he goes, Peter Fitz, who's Peter Fitz? Any Peter Fitz if you try hard enough, Uncle Tony. That was the joke.
Rotten Tomatoes shows us that only 38% of critics approved of Heavyweights, while 77% of audiences liked it. With that said, the critics have reviewed Heavyweights. Now it's time for us to review the... Wait, how come there's only 8 reviews? And 5 of them have expired links. Don't worry, we'll make it up to you, folks. Back in 2000, Austin Chronicle challenges the term overweight, and instead calls the film stars weight challenged. Honey, you can call them anything you want, but it's not gonna make those boys any skinnier. The article says, its few bits of truly comic dialogue and inspired acting aren't enough to save the film from its syrupy and predictable theme. For someone who has to come up with code names for the word fat, she's asking for a much darker movie than what we got. Of course, the theme has to be syrupy and sweet. Without those sentiments, you'd just be watching a film that makes fun of fat kids. Here are the other losers that gave Heavyweights a rotten score. Study their names and faces, hang them up in your bars, your barbershops, your brothels, all the places you frequent. Warn the neighborhood kids to stay away from them. Don't you find it kind of odd that they gave Heavyweights a bad score? They look like the kind of men who would enjoy a movie about a bunch of young boys. Well, at least this guy's not hiding anything. I'm pretty sure that's his courtroom sketch. So with a lack of critics to scorn, let's head on over to our next victims, the audience. Told you we'd make it up to you. Steve D gave Heavyweights half a star. He simply said that Heavyweights is unpleasant and completely unfunny. Gee, Steve Dick, douche, dipstick, whatever the D stands for. I was afraid you would be vague. Thanks for fleshing out all your arguments as to why you hate Heavyweights. R9 gave the movie 2.5 out of 5. He calls Heavyweights a one-joke film. Yeah, okay, what about the jokes about skinny guys who can't get Nurse Julie?
You're obviously a very powerful man, Lars. Will you excuse me?
What about ragging on Richard Simmons' over-eccentric evil twin?
Right.
Or he dumbed jocks?
You must now name 5 American vice presidents.
Sure.
In fact, there are shockingly very little jokes about the kids being fat. R9 continues, I expected a fair deal from heavyweights. Really? You're going into a 90s family movie with high expectations? I think that's where you went wrong, my little droid friend. That's not to say this film doesn't surpass expectations. I just wouldn't go searching out fine cinema in a Disney flick about fat kids. That's what this guy is implying he did. Kinda like this guy. It's like going to McDonald's expecting a 5-course meal.
Can I get 1,000 cheeseburgers?
Wait a minute. That wouldn't be uncommon. Is R9 an extra in heavyweights? One reviewer gave it a handsome 4.5, but says that the tension of making fun of fat kids doesn't age well. Again, these kids are celebrated. They're not being made fun of by anybody. They're the heroes of the film. And by the way, if you're going to talk bad about a movie, giving it 4.5 stars doesn't really back your point up, unless, of course, you're from the year 2000 Florida. This reviewer has the same problem. He says, Ben Stiller makes a great villain, and the endless fat jokes are hilarious, while giving it only 2.5 stars.
Are you stupid or something?
And these aren't the only two who don't know how to score properly.
That came out wrong.
At least the kids in heavyweights were smarter than these reviewers. One reviewer described the state of his life while giving heavyweights a 2 out of 5 score. He says, look at me, sitting on the toilet, smoking a pipe at 11
o'clock at night on a Wednesday, criticizing a Disney movie that came out over 20 years ago. Such is the life of the internet and modern human. It's cool seeing Keenan, though.
One reviewer simply said, the greatest role for Ben Stiller to date. Actually, I think he's doing just fine in that department.
Damn, she's hot.
Someone who gave the movie 1.5 stars said that Heavyweights is the most generic Disney movie ever.
Heavyweights. Yeah.
Actually, historically speaking, Heavyweights is an anomaly in the Disney canon.
You know, and it was a kids movie for Disney that they just were, I think Disney, you know, of all people, Disney had looked at this movie and said, we don't know what to do with this, you know. Disney, that can, like, I guess they can market anything, you know, they were like, we don't, what have you done here?
It's gutsy in that it's the song of the South for fat people, supposedly. One super reviewer gave Heavyweights 1 star, which makes him a super dumbass reviewer. Let's see what super dumbass says. He starts off by saying, this has gotta be one of the worst ideas for a comedy that I've seen. It's about a fitness guru taking over a fat camp. If this isn't fodder for comedy gold, I don't know what is. Well, maybe that too. Yo, tell you what I want, what I really, really want. It seemed to use the fat stereotypes a bit too much to create its humor. Do you prefer that the film forgets that they're fat and treat them all like skinny wieners? Ooh la la! The directing was unfocused.
That was wonderful! The cinematography, the editing techniques.
No, dumbass. The directing was focused solely on the kids' exploits at fat camp. That's what makes it such a great comedy. It never derails or forgets what it's about. This is where the review really gets going. If the script was better, and the cast was good, and the director was more skilled, then maybe the film would have been better. That's virtually the case for every movie ever in the history of movies, except for Braveheart. That movie stays as is. Let me tell you about this reviewer. If this guy's wife tells him the toilet broke, you know what he'd do? He'd just say they needed a better toilet and do nothing about it, allowing his wife's liquid feces to leak out of the base of the toilet, eventually drooling down the stairs, soaking into the carpet. And when his little fantasy baseball friends came over, they'd ask about the carpet stain and the stench, and he'd simply say,
"If everything worked properly, then we'd have a working toilet."
His solution is that everything needs to be better, but he has no idea how to execute that. Dumbass concludes, "I hated the film and is one of the worst films I had to watch. The film is bad because it uses stereotypes constantly in a form of humor that just isn't funny. By definition, stereotypes are hilarious."
Okay, do me. Something stereotypical so I can get it really quick.
Okay, I like your food.
Outback Steakhouse. I'm Australian, mate.
Dumbass needs to go fix the toilet now.
Please report to the men's toilets immediately. Bring a mop and a plunger.
Someone else rated Heavyweights 2 stars. He says, "Funny, but unrealistic." You know what else is unrealistic? Literally every comedy ever made. A movie's job isn't to be realistic. Movies should reach from wacky to satire in order to achieve its end goal. And when people are laughing, no one is stopping to ask if it's realistic or not. One reviewer simply says, "Ha ha, childhood obesity." I'm pretty sure this is the guy who roots for the bad kids in the movie It. One person wrote, "The little humor that there was predictable or downright boring. Some random characters getting hit on the head. Wow, how funny. How many people get hit in the head in this movie? 1? Total? I'm not wasting my time with this idiot. Perhaps he'll get hit in the head by an elephant's ass and squish it, like the stupid little maggot he is." Someone observed that Heavyweights is funny when you're not fat. Whatevs. I want to know, is he speaking from experience, or is that just wishful thinking? And now it's time for our most honest review of Heavyweights. Reviewing Heavyweights, this guy wrote, "It should be required to be a U.S. citizen. It's a good thing proper grammar isn't required."
Before you go, here is a sneak peek at Heavyweights 2. Sure, it's just a clogged pipe dream, but we can wish, right? For more Heavyweights goodness, check out heavyweights.movie on Instagram. To quote Lars, put your fat finger down and subscribe to Review the Critics. Let us know in the comments your favorite line from Heavyweights. Even though we're a brand new channel, we've just started a Patreon, but I won't bore you with how sponsoring us can help us grow. The link is in the description below. Otherwise, share this with a friend. Next week, we'll be reviewing The Critics Who Hated Alien. You don't want to miss that.